What's your lemonade stand story?
And he was like, YouTube's going to be the next big thing, Devin. Like, you need to get on that. You need to get on it early. And I'm like,
And all of us, we all go through our own trials, our own level of stuff.
Sure hope this works out. Otherwise, this will be a huge waste of time.
I mean, what else is it all about other than just taking risks and continue to try and grow and hopefully get better and better at making things?
Most of the billion-dollar brands you've seen were started by people that were just solving a problem for themselves.
We're telling lemonade stand stories from some of the world's top creators, makers, and go-getters.
We're rolling right now.
Hey,
We're having fun. We're rolling.
yeah.
Hey guys, this podcast today is sponsored by Yalla, a task management and team collaboration software that we use at Lemonade Stand. We use Yalla to keep all of our team members organized, wherever they are. In fact, we used it to plan and organize this podcast. Visit yalla.team, that's YALLA.team, and try it for free. We also have a special offer for all listeners of this podcast. Use promo code LEMONADE and get a lifetime 25% off if you upgrade. All right, what's going on, guys? This is Sarath Prabhakar with the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast, and today is a very, very special day indeed. A very, very special day, because sitting across from me is a man that I've known for my entire life, and it's just been a joy watching him grow and become the budding young man that he is right now with his colorful hair. Sitting across from me is my younger brother, Sarath Prabhakar, and I'm actually very, very honored to have him on the podcast. Sarath, I'm going to brag about you for a second before we really dive in. Okay. I know you thought that was intro. This is the second intro.
Oh, okay. I was getting prepared.
Yeah. So, Sarath, as my kid brother, it was my duty to beat him up as an older brother, and I felt terrible. As I grew up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad.
There were many fights on the bed.
Yeah, I am so sorry. I apologize. Okay. I apologize now. Like in publicly, everyone's gonna know.
It's all right. You let me win a couple times.
You did. You creamed me. But no, the thing is, Sarah, it was always interesting watching you grow up because, mom and dad, raised us the same.
Right.
They had the same type of mentality and everything like that. And I remember, dad was really strict. I think they both were strict, but dad was super strict. Mm-hmm. So much so that I would always I felt like I had to get good grades. I had to get good grades.
For sure.
Yeah. If not, I would get a spanking or something,
Yeah, of course.
And so I grew up based in fear, a lot of fear, oh my gosh, if I don't do perfect or if I don't do this, I feel like I'm going to fail and I'm going to get hit. And there was this psychological thing that kept hitting, coming at me. But you had a different experience with that pressure, Yeah,
I think for me, it was just more that I just rebelled a lot. I don't know why. And I didn't really necessarily mean to do it towards mom and dad directly.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to do whatever. And they didn't like that. And so I would have a hard time in school.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time with the law, even from a younger age.
Yeah.
And it would get me in a lot of trouble,
Yeah. I remember just growing up, it was whereas I was the kid that's I had to do good and everything.
Oh man, I mean, I remember so many times mom and dad would be like, why can't you be more like Sharon? He gets good grades in school. Why can't we don't worry about Sharon. We have to sit and worry about you all the time. And
I hated that comparison thing. I hated it, And the thing was, I remember as a kid, in toy stores and stuff, if you didn't get the toy, you would cry until you got the toy. Mm-hmm. And I was so furious for two reasons. One, because I'm you guys are spoiling him. You're teaching him that he can get whatever he wants by whining about it. Yeah. And two, why the heck didn't I do that? I missed out on getting some great toys because I didn't cry. So I was actually quite bummed that I didn't even think of that tactic.
Actually.
I was dang it, because there was still this ninja rabbit I was hoping to get, and I never did get it.
I think you should get it now.
I can, but I will cry before I go get it, just because it feels right to do so.
That's awesome.
But it's interesting because the thing is, you did struggle in school. You struggled because anytime there was that sense of rules or structure,
yeah,
it's your spirit was forget that.
Yeah.
I'm going to like get away from that structure. I want to be my own person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you found that doing that didn't lead you to happiness.
No, in fact, most of the time I can tell you that me doing whatever I wanted would feel good in the moment because I was rebelling. Yeah. But then it always, well, I shouldn't say always, but most of the time it ended in like a disaster of some kind. You know?
Like the consequences weren't worth it.
Yeah, they weren't worth it. It was just in school, I would talk during class. Yeah. Because I didn't want to pay attention to the teacher. And then I'd get kicked out of class. Yeah. And then mom and dad would hear about it during parent teacher conferences. Yeah. You know? And so it was a struggle for them, like with me in school. Yeah. You know, and I think dad was just really happy that I got my GED towards the end. Yeah. Because I didn't complete high school. Yeah. So,
well, you know, it's interesting because two different paths, you know, and we both experienced it differently and approached like that sense of pressure differently. Yeah. But the thing is that people don't, I mean, I don't know if people realize this about you, is that you are extremely, extremely intelligent. Even if you like felt like you weren't good in school, the moment you set your mind on anything, you would excel at it. Right. Like, that's just who you are. That's your spirit. Right. So I remember like even as a kid, like watching you skateboard because I knew you loved skateboarding. Yeah. And like, dude, you would sit there for hours. Yeah. Focused. Yeah. And you would do kick flips, you do 360 kick flips, you'd ollie off over like big things and stuff like that. Yeah. And it was crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, like he's so talented because he loves that sport. Right. You did the same thing with the trampoline. Right. You would be on the trampoline for hours and you do all kinds of crazy flips and upside down things. And I was like, if I could like just bounce, just standing up on my feet and like land on my feet, that was a success for me. Amazing. Magical success story. So you just had like this ability, and the same thing translated to playing the guitar. Right. And I mean, you're genuinely one of the greatest like guitar players I know, you know, and that
means a lot to me.
Yeah. And you're really, really talented. Like the way I see your fingers move and hitting the strings and like coming up with like new riffs, new songs and stuff like that. So I want to talk a little bit about music first. Okay. Sure. And then we'll kind of dive down some of the deeper stuff. Right. So what drew you to playing the guitar initially?
So when we lived in Payson, I had a friend, Ashton, you know, and me and him used to skateboard all the time together. And he was the one that actually introduced music to me. And he was like, I want to start playing guitar. And I think it's really cool, you know? Yeah. So I got a guitar too, and I sucked way bad. Yeah. I sucked so bad that I quit within the first like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. You know, like I couldn't even like have this hand here and this hand here and hit the strings at the same time. I got frustrated. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And then Ashton said, well, why don't you play bass guitar? It's 4 strings. You can jump around. And then he showed me Blink-182. Yeah. And then Blink-182, they're just running around the stage and having fun. There's all these fans. And I'm like, that looks like fun. Yeah. So I started playing bass. Yeah. And then I got really used to just playing an instrument. Yeah. You know? And then from there, my creativity kind of surpassed the bass and like I want to write songs. You know? So since I had the talent of playing an instrument, I just kind of translated that over to guitar. Yeah. And so I would just start learning some of my favorite bands. You know, like there's tons of musicians out there that are too afraid and they're saying, I can't do that. It's really just because there's just small steps to get to where you want to be, but we look at the top of the peak. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So if you take it as a pebble, and which is just finger exercises or whatever exercises I was doing on the guitar, I would do that and learn some of my favorite bands as encouragement. Yeah. And then I just started learning guitar and wanting to be in bands, and I've been in many bands now over the last 10 to 13 years. And I've toured a few times, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. You know? Like music is definitely imprinted in my life. Yeah. Whether I do it for the rest of my life or not, professionally, I don't know, but it will definitely be something that I will always do.
Well, the thing is, like you said something initially, just barely, that I liked a lot. You said when you saw Blink-182 run around and like get all these fans and play, you're like, that looks like fun. Yeah. And it was that core thing, that fun factor that was like, you know what? I want to do this. Yeah. And you excelled at it. Yeah. It was really great. And so it was like whenever you found things that were like fun for you, you would be like the best. Because you just, it would like, it wasn't even a competition anymore. It was just like, this is just like your life. You just became that thing. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really why I struggled in school quite a bit, because school wasn't fun for me. Yeah. You know, the only class I loved was music class. Yeah. You know? And so when I see things that I'm like, I want to do that. I don't want to live a 9-to-5 life or a regular life. I want to do things that are exciting and different and unique. And when I find something like music or skateboarding, I really want to go for it. Yeah, and it's epic and it's awesome. So, and the thing is, when I saw you first perform, like I remember being like, oh my gosh, he's got so much stage presence, and people loved watching you perform because you had so much fun doing it. Yeah. People around you had so much fun watching you. It was a really interesting thing, and I was like, wow, like that's so cool. And we've talked about this before because the type of music you played isn't really the type of music I listen to. But I remember just going there and recognizing, hey, these guys can really draw a crowd, and they can really connect with an audience. Right. Why do you think that you guys were able to do that?
I think it was really just because when we play music, we are music.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, in my opinion, there's a difference between people that perform and play music and people that are music. And what I mean by our music is we feel the music so much that the music literally moves our body for us.
Interesting.
Moves makes me want to sing. Like I envelop myself in playing. And when I do, like when I play the first note to the last note, it feels like this.
Yeah, it's like you're in a complete flow state.
Absolutely. Like I'm present in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's like something that is so interesting because I think as human beings, it's a challenge to be present in the moment.
Totally.
We're in our heads all the time.
Yeah.
And so like I found music, and music puts me in the moment in the most beautiful way.
Yeah.
And I'm able to express all of my emotions through writing.
Yeah.
I can write a sad song and people can literally feel sad because I can convey it through the chords and through the note changes and things like that. You know? And so I feel like for me, it's because I am music. I'm connected so deeply within myself that other people see that. Yeah. Other people see me just get into it.
Yeah.
They see that I don't care what they think if I'm dancing goofy or running around or doing anything because I'm having fun. Yeah. And because I'm smiling and having fun, they like seeing that.
Yeah.
And so they end up having fun.
Yeah. And your lack of like being self-conscious allows them to not be self-conscious.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
It's like they feel what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. And if people want to feel alive, they want to feel like that sense of like, being present in the moment. Yeah. And seeing you in that space automatically gives them permission to do the same thing.
Yeah. It's like, what I love doing is opening an emotional space for people to feel safe, to feel like they can really do what they truly want to do. I mean, we all go home, we're all singing in the car, we all act goofy and have fun opinions and things, but we get so concerned with what the world thinks. Yeah. Right? That we shut off at least a little piece of ourselves. But when you
time it's a lot of pieces of ourselves.
A lot. We'll even say a lot,
Yeah.
But when you find that space with someone, whether it's a conversation or an event or a show or whatever, all of a sudden they're having so much genuine fun because they get to experience all of themselves in that moment.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that like really leave an imprint on your life.
I really feel like the more you learn to be authentic, like truly authentic, and to experience life fully, things just change, and you're like, wow, like I really felt alive. Yeah. And I think more than anything, what people really want is to feel alive.
Yeah, definitely.
To truly feel alive right here, right now.
Yeah.
And, we might think like, hey, if I get the new iPhone, I'll feel more alive.
Yeah, right.
Or if I get this new car. And it's like, all it is like, those are all like little glimpses of ways to experience life more fully, maybe.
Right.
But there's a way to experience more life right now without the need of all of these material things.
Totally. And I think those material things, they feel really good, right? When we get them.
Sure.
I mean, I love getting a new guitar, but it's a material thing. So it will provide a temporary happiness for me.
Yeah.
But it won't fill what I need inside, which is like my spirit. I need my spirit to be happy for myself. Yeah. And then if I'm happy inside, naturally everything outside of me will become better because our outside world is our reflection
of our inside
world. Yeah.
I love that, man. So we just barely talked about like your spirit needing to be happy, and if that is the case, then everything else kind of like works itself out, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about some heavy stuff now, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I really wanted you on the podcast. You posted on Facebook the other day that a couple days ago marked your 4-year clean mark of sobriety from like drugs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I remember we had a conversation back in 2014, I think.
Okay.
It's 2014.
Okay.
And that was the year you confided in me that you were addicted to heroin, right?
I do remember.
I remember that because
I remember where I was sitting. I remember talking to you, how scared I was to tell you.
Yeah, you know, and I was in California at the time, actually.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of talk a little bit about like what led you down the path of even getting into drugs, because I know you said you had like a bit of a rebellious spirit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your thought process before then.
You know, the funny thing is about me getting into like the hardcore drugs, the opiates and the heroin and all that stuff. Like I got into, it was just the people I was around when it first started. Okay, I started drinking a little bit. I didn't really like it. I didn't like taste alcohol, you know, and I didn't really like even try smoking weed or anything like that. You know, it really took me a long time of like being around that energy to like slowly start trying things, you know, start being more curious and more curious.
Yeah.
So for me, it was environment. It was people I was around.
Okay.
And
environment and energy.
Yeah. So that plays a huge part in what you do with your life and the decisions that you want to make and the people that you look up to that are doing those things.
Yeah.
You know, like my friends that I looked up to, they were doing these things. And so I would say, hey, I want to be cool. I want to do those things. Everyone else is kind of around doing it.
Yeah.
It's the typical, like, everyone's doing it. Why don't you do it?
Right.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so
like massive FOMO, right?
Yeah. And so I started smoking weed a little bit more, and I'd hang out with my buddies that would do music, and they would be doing the opiates in front of me. And I'd always think, you guys are nuts. Like, why would, especially the way they were doing it. I'm not going to get into that, but it was just really, really just not, it was gross, disgusting. You know? And I would make fun of them for months. You know, I'd sit there and play music in their house, and they would just be doing drugs. And I'm like, you guys are crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And then there was one day when they were like, just stop making fun of us and try it, Sarath. We'll give you some for free.
Mm-hmm.
So
how old were you at the time?
I was right out of high school. So I'd say... This was
18 maybe?
Yeah.
17, 18?
I would say maybe when I got into this, it was a little older, maybe in my early 20s.
Okay, so early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably around 22, I'll say. And then I finally tried it, and I fell in love from the first chance that it hit me.
Really?
Know? Oh yeah, like it felt incredible to me.
Like, and was this heroin or what was this?
This was Loratabs.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's another opiate.
An opiate. Okay.
Yeah, it's an opiate. You know, a very it's the one that's like not the most powerful.
Okay.
It's considered a weak opiate.
Okay.
So I tried it and I loved it, and I didn't get addicted from the first time, but I loved it for the first time enough to where my mind was curious to be like, I'm going to ask for this every time it's around now.
Yeah.
You know? And from there,
it was like just like an instant like, wow, I love this.
For me, I tried it and I just felt like I was floating and sinking at the same time. And I was like, wow, this feels incredible.
Okay.
Super synthetic and incredible.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And my addictive brain loved that feeling.
Yeah.
You know? And so I wanted more.
Yeah.
I wanted more. And so over the course of time, within, I want to say like the next 2 years, I had graduated from doing that to Oxycontin.
Okay.
Because what happens is when you start doing opiates, your body builds a tolerance.
Yeah, it kind of acclimates to it, right?
Yeah. So when you don't have it, you get very, very sick. Very sick.
Okay.
That's what withdrawing is.
Okay, so you basically become addicted to it in a sense of like physically addicted, right? If you're not having it, then you get sick for not having it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I got very sick. And when I got sick, I got agitated, and I just wasn't a very good human to be around, you know? And so that was really what drove me to start like coming up with money and selling, you know? Like I started trying to do that. And when Oxycontin got taken off the market, which is, I don't know, like a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I turned to heroin because heroin was way cheaper and way more powerful.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was full blown addicted to opiates at that point.
And you were about how old at this time?
24, 25.
Okay.
I would even between 24 and 26.
Okay.
You know, I was like, at that point, I made the decision, I'm going to sell this every day so I can keep my habit because I can't afford to buy it without it.
Yeah, you had to have it.
So I was selling it for about 5 years.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years.
And you know, it's interesting because I remember those years, like you were very like cut off from the fam. You know, like you felt like you were very distant. You didn't really talk to us too much.
Barely came to family stuff. Didn't want to be around for Thanksgiving, barely Christmas, birthdays. Like,
did you feel like a sense of shame? Is that one of the reasons why?
Yeah,
there
was a lot of shame, and there was a lot of I didn't want to deal with being around people that weren't like
that weren't like you.
Yeah.
That
like I
addictions.
didn't want to deal with being around the family, and like really all that was on my mind is when can I leave so I can go get high again.
Go get high again.
Yeah.
So you were never present at home.
Never.
It was like right when you got home, it was like, I cannot wait to leave. So it was almost like an act.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be acting and lying and manipulating and making up any story so I could leave. If I didn't make it to a place on time, it's because my car always broke down.
Yeah.
There was always a problem with my car magically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, this happened or that happened. It was crazy. Like the excuses I would make up and lies that once I told a lie, I'd have to come up with another one and another one and another one.
Yeah.
And eventually I don't even remember the first lie.
Yeah. Because you're trying to cover up.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is like, we always knew you were lying.
I knew it.
We always knew. And the thing was, we always knew, like, even like, when you said you were on drugs at one time, I'm like, and like it clicked in place. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything makes sense.
Right.
But before I was like, we always knew something was up.
Yeah.
You know, we could tell like the energy was off and you just looked different. Your, the way you flowed, like the way you looked, like your eyes had no light in them.
Oh yeah.
You were overweight and you just did not look healthy or happy and you were very depressed.
Yeah. I would spend most of, even when I lived at mom's house, you know, I mean, I remember being in my addiction, living at mom's house, sneaking into the bathroom and doing it in the bathroom, weird hours of the night. I broke my phone in mom's bathroom one time because I was doing it on the toilet and my phone I just literally passed out almost and my phone hit the floor and it cracked. Yeah. You know, I look back at all of those memories and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that I was there. It's a real thing. Yeah. And that's the reality, is that addiction is so real. I just found out that one of my buddies passed away the other day, and it just happens out of nowhere. Yeah. When you're in the recovery world, when that dimension opens up for you, it's opening up for you with an infinite amount of love, but it also comes with an infinite amount of death. You know, you never know when the person you're talking to in the moment is going to not be there tomorrow. And that's happened 14 times to me since I've been in steps. 14 times? Yeah. You've had friends that have the same problems. I've been going through treatment with. Yeah. I've gone to treatment with someone and he sat next to me and the next day he is not there because he had a bad night. He relapsed, overdosed. And the biggest thing for addicts is that we build a tolerance, right? And then you have a certain amount you do because you built a tolerance. And then you go to treatment. You go to treatment and you get clean. You find all these new ways of thinking and doing thought patterns and life skills. And then you get thrown back into the real world with no bubble. So all of a sudden you can go to the gas station and go drink. You can call your dealer and go pick up. Yeah. It's scary. Yeah. And so these people, they'll have a bad day. Girlfriend breakup, didn't get a job, festering on addiction, and they'll go and do the same exact amount they did when they got into treatment, and since their tolerance isn't there, it overloads their system and then they overdose. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And even besides all of that, there are so many dangerous chemicals cut into drugs that, I mean, you never know what you're inhaling in your body. Yeah. Because I remember for years you had some massive health issues. I had internal bleeding when I was working with Melissa. Yeah. Oh, you did? Oh man. Yeah. I had a lot of weird, my knees, for some reason, my left knee, I couldn't even kneel down on my left knee. Yeah. Now it's weird because I didn't do anything and it has fixed itself. I can run and skateboard and kneel down on anything. It's the weirdest thing. But it's your body has a beautiful way of healing itself, right? Yeah. I remember in 2014 when I was talking to you, and then I remember calling a bunch of treatment places because you called me, and in fact, I'd like to, we'll dive into that for a second. Okay. But I talked to a counselor at a therapist place. Yeah. At a treatment place, excuse me. Yeah. And he basically said, he's like, hey, just so you have an understanding of what your brother's going through right now, when he's addicted to heroin and then he goes on withdrawals, it's basically saying for the next 3 days, you have to tell your body, I can't breathe. You have to hold your breath for the next 3 days. That's what going through withdrawals is. That's actually a really good way of, I've never even thought about it like that, but that's what he said. That really is how it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and he said withdrawals are so terrible. It's like a flu times 1,000. Yeah. And your body is shaking. And I remember seeing you during your withdrawals. Oh yeah, many times. And it was just you were shaking, you're sweating. You could not sit still. Yeah.
because it was just like there was so much energy and agitation, you know. I remember like even I don't even remember this, but like during Christmas you were like asking me if I wanted to help you get heroin.
Totally, I remember that in my room.
You know, and I'm like
because
there's other things I can help you get,
right?
Maybe not heroin. You know?
Yeah, and it was so ridiculous because like now when I look back at that, because I remember that memory and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? You know?
Yeah.
But like in the moment,
you
don't think about anything else but the one thing that'll help you breathe.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and you're willing to like, I mean, I have stolen so much money from people. I've robbed elderly people outside of banks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I've stolen my friends' equipment. I've just done really terrible things that I am not proud of. But it was all because I did not want to feel sick. Not even that I wanted to get high. Because the whole thing is once you build a tolerance and you start getting sick, you're just chasing feeling normal, not even getting high anymore.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like you've literally created a prison for yourself.
Yeah.
And instead of getting high, you're like, I just want to feel normal.
I want to feel normal. I want to go outside. I remember there's one thought that always plagued me was I'd wake up, open the window, and I would see families everywhere having fun, kids outside playing, and I'd be so angry because I'm like, how can they do that and I can't? I am miserable. You know? I'm miserable.
Yeah. I remember, dude, there were a couple times where I remember like seeing you lying on a bed or something, and I just felt this overwhelming love for you. And like I remember like putting my hand on your shoulder and being like, dude, I love you so much. And I remember you were like, you were in the height of like massive amounts of depression, and you're like, Sharon, I just don't see how I could ever be happy. You know, and I remember you were like, we've had so many conversations over the years where it was like, I just don't see how I could ever find hope. And it's interesting now to see where you're at, which is like you're radiating light, you know, you're radiating positivity and hope, you know, and it's so beautiful. And like to me, watching your life story or your life unfold has been like one of the greatest source of hope ever. And I tell it, you know, I encourage people, I say, like, look, if you think that you can't turn life around and be hopeful and happy, like, you obviously don't know my brother, because that is his story. His is the story of ultimate hope. Yeah. We've talked a lot about like the heaviness. We talked about like, you know, overdosing and people feeling normal and people trying to get their system suddenly getting flooded because they were not used to, their tolerance level goes away and all these things. And the problem is like, even when you're in treatment, it takes a long while for you to like rewire the way you think about things.
Oh yeah. They say it takes between 7 months and a year. I mean, don't quote me on that, but when I was in treatment, it takes that long for your brain to make actually healthy decisions on its own. Yeah. After, I'm talking 7 months to a year of no drug use. Yeah. You know, and just repairing your brain. I mean, when I go to treatment or when I was working at treatment, we would overload all the clients with vitamins. Yeah. Because we're just trying to like replenish their system from all the damage that they've done. Right? You know? Yeah.
So let's talk 2014, that day that you called me. Okay. So what was the reasoning behind the call?
Me and Brandy were sitting on my bed. I didn't have any more heroin because I smoked all of it. Mm-hmm. She was not making enough money to support it, because what had happened to get me to that point was I was selling, and then one by one, each one of my customers would get caught and then thrown in jail. So like I would just continue to have a lot of product and I would be bored at home doing nothing. Yeah. And so I would end up like using the product. And so we ended up just not having money and not having drugs. And so it was like I finally broke down and I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like I just don't, I'm lost. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I have to tell my parents, but like you're the most comfortable person I feel like talking to in the family about anything. Yeah. So I'm like, I'll call Sharon, and I'll tell Sharon, you know? Yeah. And I remember feeling like so much like fear and anxiety from like being able to like openly be like, I've been addicted to heroin for 5 years. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Because at this moment, even though you guys like knew that I was acting different,
we didn't know the
exact thing. Yeah. And so when I told you, like it was like the biggest blessing in my life, because all you did was you were just like, okay, no problem. Let's help you. Yeah. And so all of that fear and anxiety like went away like that. And I was like, yes, please, let's help. Like, will you help me tell mom and dad? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. And so like that was a huge like turnaround in my life was the fact that I could call and just tell you, and then you helped me tell mom and dad. You know? Like that was huge for me.
Yeah.
And so like that's really what led me to that point is, I mean, I've been through a lot of crazy experiences even before that. Like I got robbed and I had like a pipe to my face, and I was in dangerous situations, you know? And so it's like, I don't want to live my life in those dangerous situations when I can completely just avoid it.
Yeah.
You know? And so I just remember telling you. And then I remember another thing from that year was just the feeling of you and dad driving away from that treatment center. And I was like,
I know. I remember.
So sad. I'm like, I don't know these people.
I know.
You guys were leaving me, and I was so scared, and I didn't know what it was going to be like.
Yeah. But it was cool because we both felt like so sad, like leaving you. And we're like, I think it's gonna be okay. And then I remember a couple of days later, you were able to call us, and you sounded so positive.
Right.
Like I remember, like that was the first thing I was like, wait, why do you sound so positive? It was so amazing, you know. So you went to that treatment center, and then and I know you relapsed a couple of times.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And like, because I think what it was like you were going through it, and then all of a sudden like the relationship with Brandy didn't work out, and that like triggered a lot of things for you.
So in 2014, after I got out of treatment, I was in sober living.
Okay.
In Heber. Okay. But I don't know if I wasn't ready to be out of inpatient, but I didn't have structure.
Yeah.
After having 30 days of nothing but structure.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I got tossed into the wild, and it was like, go fend for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and all I had was meetings, AA and NA meetings. And like that kind of sustained you a little bit, but like being around your community and your friends that are going through it and your counselors that are your mentors is what helps you like take the next step.
Yeah.
And since I didn't have that, I was in the sober living, and I had another friend that actually lived in Heber coincidentally that smoked marijuana.
Yeah.
So eventually I just hooked up with him, and then I relapsed, and then I was doing that for a couple months in the house.
Yeah.
And then I remember it was like December or something like that where I ended up leaving because I wasn't sober. You know? And from there, I went from there and lived with Brandon again.
Yeah.
And so I went from this healthy environment, even though I wasn't doing healthy habits, and I went into a toxic environment.
I remember because you called me multiple times talking about how miserable life was.
Yeah.
You know, just like miserable. And I'm like, dude, why are you living there? You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because so you had ups and downs like this.
Oh yeah.
And we can go into detail, but I think I want to kind of like talk about really like what was it that was like, this is the final straw. Like I need to change.
And I'll always remember this for sure. I was on the way to California to see you.
Okay.
And this was 4 years ago.
Okay.
Probably in the first week of October, actually.
I remember we hung out in California.
Yeah. So with my golden moment, I don't like to call it a bottom of the barrel. I call it my like zing moment where you're like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Was we were in Carlsbad.
Okay.
And Dad stopped at a McDonald's.
Okay.
And this particular McDonald's was like attached to like other shops, and there was all these kids and parents and everything. And I remember just seeing all these kids run around. I used the day before, the day that we left to California, I used in Dad's bathroom. Okay. And so the next day when we were in Carlsbad, I was just completely depleted. It was my first day of not breathing.
And you were like withdrawing.
Yeah. Not as bad as I have in the past, but I was, you know. And I remember getting this McDouble and looking at Dad, who's sitting just like where you were, and biting it and looking at him and just being like, I wish I could taste this, but it tastes like cardboard right now to me.
Wow.
Because when you're withdrawing, you don't have an appetite at all. Everything will just taste like nothing. Okay. And that was part of my golden moment. But what really did it for me was, okay, as a human being, we have the right to feel a range of emotions.
Yeah.
Happy, sad, irritated, whatever we want.
Yeah.
But we have the power to feel those things. So if you tell me something funny, I'm going to laugh and be happier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I couldn't even be happy because I had no dopamine in my system. I couldn't even have the choice of being happy. And that's a right that I was born with.
So you robbed yourself of the right to be happy.
Of joy.
Wow.
And I didn't know it in that moment, but now that I look back and I like look back at my thought patterns and like what really was the moment, it was that moment that I'm like, I never want to feel like I can't be happy. That's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
So I remember coming to California with you, calling Julie Jackson 3 days into being there, setting it up. and then coming back home and then getting into sober living like the following day when we got back, you know, and that was like my moment. That was my like, I don't want to do this anymore because I was sick of chasing heroin, and I was sick of not being happy. Like I wanted to be happy, you know.
And it was cool because you were finally starting to own your life.
Yeah.
Because before it was like always blaming other people. It was
victim mode.
Very victim, right?
Yeah. It's really, really easy to get into victim mode when you're in an addiction or everything's against you. If it wasn't for mom, if it wasn't for this situation, it wasn't for this person. Yeah. You know? And so I would always live in a state of just being a victim. Yeah. And that was definitely my moment. And then, you know, the one thing that really helped me really achieve success is listening to the counselors. I came back because this was the second time I went through steps. Yeah. You know, I came back and I said, look, I'm going to do whatever you guys say because my way didn't work. My best ideas got me here. Yeah. Yeah. Got me back here. So like, obviously my thought patterns and my thought processes aren't good.
So you completely learned to surrender.
I surrendered everything.
You surrendered everything.
I went back into sober living. Yeah. I went back into IOP treatment, which was 3 hours a night for 4 days a week. Yeah. And I said, I will listen to everything you guys say. I'll do all my homework. I will stay in my seat as long as I need to. I saw people come in after me and leave before me. Scores of people do that. Yeah. And that hits your ego. Totally. You know, because I'm in every group. I'm participating in every group. I want recovery. I made myself known in the recovery scene as like someone that goes to sober softball events and is an integral part of like steps. I wanted to be. Yeah. And it was really hard for me to see that, but it was humbling and is what I needed, because when I did finally graduate, I felt like I earned it. I deserved it. It took months and months, longer than I was in there for 8 months. Most people are in there for 3. Yeah. You know, and I humbled my ego, and that really is a key. Yeah. You know, like a lot of people have a different way of thinking about ego. I think of it as edging God out. Yeah. You know, so if you want to have an ego and edge whatever you believe in, whether it's God or a higher power, universe, when you are living in that ego state, you're not thinking clearly. Well,
your ego edging God out is like a really interesting phrase, right? Because the truth is like, you think that your way is the better way.
Right. Self-will.
It's self-will.
Sure. Yeah.
You feel like your way is the way of power. And by not doing it your way, you feel like you're giving up on all of your power. Yeah. But it's almost like it's very counterintuitive, but like when you surrender your ego, when you surrender that your way, you realize where true power really comes from. Right. And it's awesome.
Yeah, right? It totally is. It totally is awesome. Yeah. And I noticed that when I would work on myself, everything that I wanted in my life, just it's like a magnet, it just like came to me without trying to necessarily directly focus on it.
You weren't chasing.
I wasn't chasing. I was just like, I'm just going to work on me. For the first year of my sobriety, I promised no girlfriends, no outside distractions, no band, like maybe barely a little bit, you know? But I wanted to focus on like living life outside of using drugs and being able to survive in our real world. Yeah. You know? And so I did the treatment. I went to meetings. AA saved my life. Yeah. It really did. Like I'm not an AA big book thumper where I'm like, this is the only way. Yeah. But I will tell you the steps are what saved my life initially. Because I was always under the impression that the steps just kept you off drugs. Like, these are the steps to do, and then you won't do drugs or alcohol. Yeah. But what it is are steps to fix you. Yeah. You know, we're doing drugs and alcohol to escape ourselves. We don't want to think about the depression or we don't feel good enough. We don't have enough confidence. This girl or boy didn't like me. I don't want to think about that. So I'm going to drink and I'm going to do everything else, right? Yeah. Numb out. When you get clean off that stuff, what are you left with? Yourself. With all your holes and all your things you got to fill up and all your stuff you got to fill up with healthy new habits. Yeah. You know? And so what AA did was when I went through the steps, I would go through each process and it would help fill each little gap. Step 4 is a big one that people talk about because it's writing out all the things that you've done, all your fears and insecurities and all this stuff. And people are scared of it. It is a scary thing to do. Yeah. But the whole point of it is you write it out and you see your patterns. So you can have your patterns on a paper and say, this is what I did last time. I'm not going to do it this time. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And so it saved my life. I don't follow the 12 steps every day. I have found a higher power, which is the universe, energy, myself, whatever it is, you know, like my higher being. And I found habits that create happiness where I found if I'm triggered, I know what to do now instead of going into the trigger.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that just comes with time. That comes with being around people. That comes with experience.
Yeah.
I remember when I got into sober living, I couldn't even have tinfoil in the house for 6 months.
Because it was triggering.
Way too triggering.
Yeah.
It wasn't allowed in any of the sober living houses.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I couldn't, when I went to the bank and I would see pens, like writing pens, I got triggered by that because I would use those to do drugs.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting, right?
Yeah. And I wouldn't go to Salt Lake for 6 months. I didn't drive there alone for 6 months because I was like, I don't trust myself right now to be around the area I used to go get heroin, but not by myself.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so interesting, man. And you sort of like really discovering yourself and learning yourself. Talk to me about the time that you first started tasting joy again.
Let's see. I mean, I think the first time that I can kind of remember was when I was laughing on my own in treatment.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks into treatment. I was there for 4 weeks in the inpatient. Halfway through, I started like laughing at just life, like people, conversations, we're having fun. And I think there was a moment when one of my counselors was like, do you realize what you guys just did there? And we were all like, what? And they're like, you guys were all laughing and having a great, beautiful conversation without drugs. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Like that was such a fun time. Like I want to go do that again.
Yeah.
And then like at treatment, we had ping pong there. So I'm like, let's play ping pong. I love ping pong. And I started finding the joy of like the things I did before I did drugs.
Yeah.
Like the things that Sarath liked.
Yeah.
I love ping pong and 3D puzzles. And I like skateboarding. All the little joys of life all started coming back to me because I wasn't focused on getting high.
Yeah.
You know? And those are little like boosters. Mm-hmm. You know? Those are little like, there you go. Here you go. Keep going on this path. You're on the right path. You're happy. You're smiling. I mean, I can't even believe I pay my own bills today. You know? I can't even believe I have my own apartment.
Yeah.
I have my own place. Yeah. You know, like I was lucky to have a couch at one point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the joys that recovery has brought me is amazing. But the way to do it is one step at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time. Like we have to look at things as baby steps. As addicts and alcoholics, I don't consider myself an addict anymore. I do consider myself like I've just gotten past that phase. Yeah. You know? But for us, we have to take things in baby steps. Because if we look at everything as a mountain, then we're not going to try.
Yeah,
and we'll run away.
It's too hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, dude. In fact, I was literally going to ask you, like, hey, what would you... Because I was going to ask you, like, what would you give advice to people that are going through what you went through? Yeah. And what was also really cool, and I remember, like, you were doing this, and you were, like, so alive, was you actually started working at recovery places.
That was so awesome.
You know, tell me about that a little bit.
That was so cool. I remember I was working at Vivint Warehouse when I first started my recovery. Mm-hmm. And, you know, these treatment centers, they require that you have a certain amount of clean time. Yeah. So you have experience in, because I'm going to be mentoring the people that are coming in. So I have to have my own experience with that, right? Yeah. So I remember asking my buddy, Shane, actually, he was working at Alpine at the time. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I really want a treatment job. Like, I really want one. Like, can you talk to your boss? It was at like a sober softball event. He's like, yeah, how much clean time do you have? And at the time I had 6 months. And most of the time the treatment centers required 9 months to a year. Okay. So I was like, yeah, talk to your boss. Like, I would love to. I'm just working at Vivint Warehouse. I'm not happy. Like, I'm just doing the same thing over and over. And
you're not feeling fulfilled.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, I see him again at sober softball. And he's like, actually, I talked to my boss and she would be willing to talk to you. Like, because I told her that you were doing really well, even though you only have 6 months. And I was like, that's amazing. Okay. Yeah. So I got an interview and I went up and worked and got my job, you know? Yeah. And I had no idea at the time, but that was like one of the biggest blessings for me as someone that will grow in my recovery. And for myself, I was able to guide people when they came into treatment, when they were so scared and they didn't know what it was going to be like. They don't know any of these other people. They don't know where they are a lot of times, more than probably 50% of the times, they were from out of state, you know? And so they really didn't know anyone. And I loved being the person to show them joy and be like, how you doing? You're totally fine. Let's get you checked in and like, I'll help you fill out whatever you got to do. And there's food here. And if you have any questions, I'm here. And there's many nights that I would just sit up with clients like hours because they were just lost. And I would say, it's okay. Like, this is just the process. Like, I will sit here with you because this is what I went through and you deserve to go through, like go through this process so you can be happy. you know?
Gosh, I freaking love that, dude.
And
I love that so much. Yeah.
It was me being able to create space.
Yeah.
Create safe space for people, enough for them to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is scary. It's so scary. Yeah. And that's why love is scary, because it's like full of vulnerability.
It's just vulnerable. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
And so when I allow them to have that space, and usually I do that by relating to them in my own life, I'll dig back in my life and say, look, I did this before. I've been through this. And it's okay. It's normal, actually, because we judge our feelings a lot. Yeah. And what we should do is just say, I have the right to feel this way because I'm feeling it. I'm me. I have the right to feel this. And I just let them know, like, anything you're feeling, you have the right to feel. Yeah. You're doing this correctly because it is your way. Yeah. There's not one right way.
And the beautiful thing is you validate their existence by doing so. Yeah. Because for so many people, I'm sure that like escaping themselves is really because they don't like themselves at all, like, or they never found value in themselves. Right. And maybe temporarily drugs give them a sense of like real high or like a real purpose. Yeah. And then it quickly changed. Right. But I love that you spent so much time helping people with themselves.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And like, I remember like, you'd come over and like you talk to us and there was just this, at Mom's, and you were just like so full of light and joy. Like, I've never seen you more excited to go to work.
I know.
It was weird. I'm like,
it was
what
way
in
weird.
The world?
I know.
But you were so excited to go to work. You like didn't want to be late at all. You always like go early. And you'd like stay later than you were supposed to. In fact, they were like, hey, we need you to like cut down the hours because you're working so much, But that was like, I realized like you had completely transformed, like a complete 180 in the best sense of the word, and became the person that could be the shoulder to cry on, right? The one that can provide hope and say, hey, you know what? Let's get you some actual dopamine in your life. Yeah. Yeah. So I love that.
I love that too. It's helped me so much in my life to work at the different treatment centers because, truthfully, I learn more from the clients than they learn from me. I just allow them to have the space so they can say what they need to say or feel what they need to feel. Yeah. And so it's been a growth experience. Like, I mean, definitely.
That's so freaking awesome, dude. I just have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
So with all of these things right now and where you are at right now, where you are in a very healthy relationship with a beautiful girl, and you feel like just alive, like you feel happy. Yeah. What would you say with all of these things is your current greatest fear?
Ooh, that's a good question. So right now I'm actually going through a transition, I would say a physical, spiritual, a big transition. Yeah. And what I was telling Mandy actually the other day was, I'm just scared that I'm not going to like what I see or what I become because that was from my past, So I guess my biggest fear is just the unknown, But I encourage myself and everyone else to dive into the unknown because most of the time, at least for me, I will overthink a situation that hasn't happened. Yeah. And then out of the billions of possibilities that are, let's just say, 3/4 of those possibilities are positive, we can choose to think about all of those, but we choose to think of like the third that's negative, that might happen. Yeah. But we're so powerful that we can manifest something by a thought. So if you choose to physically think like, I'm going to just think about this negative thought, then you almost create the situation.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But when you go into a situation and you just think positive, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, I love that.
Then you're going to have a way better chance of having a better outcome than thinking negatively, going into a situation timid and anxious and, And so
love that.
I think just that and remembering to celebrate your wins every day. I woke up today. I woke up sober. Yeah. I woke up not withdrawing. Yeah. I woke up coming here to do this podcast because I can. Yeah. Yeah. Like Dad has taught me to be grateful for our health. Yeah. When he had his stroke, he lost the vision in one of his eyes. And the doctor told him at the time that he wouldn't get it back. And because Dad just can do whatever he can, he got his vision back within a month. Awesome. You know? Yeah. But he taught me that you should be so grateful for even being able to see out of both of your eyes, Sarath, because I woke up and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Crazy. So I try my best to live in a state of gratefulness. You know, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful I woke up. I'm grateful I have a vast amount of people that know me, that know who I truly am and would do things for me, because I'm not the person I used to be when I was using. I'm showing my true self now, and everyone deserves to show that. Anyone that's suffering with addiction or of any kind deserves like the most pure happiness this universe can give them. They just don't feel it because they're so drowned in that. That they can't see the light. There's too many layers of darkness over them that they can't see the light. And that's where people like me and you and positive people in recovery get to help those people by shining the light and taking some of those layers off, you know, where they're just so raw and happy. Like the best feeling in the world for me working in treatment is seeing someone come in and seeing the state that they're in. And over the next like month, because most of the time they're at least there for a month, I get to see them transform literally from a person that could barely walk to someone that's jumping around for joy. Like I get to see the miracle. And like I got to see hundreds of miracles in the last 4 years. And every one of those miracles has taught me something about myself that's encouraged me to be better.
Dude, freaking love it. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome.
So with all of these things, the last question I have for you, knowing what you know now, what would you go and tell your younger self?
Oh man, that's a way good question. You know, that's really hard for me to say because I'm very, very proud of where I am now. And I don't know what I would say to my younger self because I wouldn't want to change my life, you know? So I wouldn't say anything. I would just let myself like go through the phases that I went through because I love myself now. And I wouldn't be where I am now. Like one thing you said in the beginning of this podcast was, you know, we went 2 different directions with mom and dad, like 2 different ways, right? I was a little bit more rebellious than you. But we're here now. And we're talking about the same stuff. We're connecting on a spiritual level the same way. And we took 2 completely different paths. But we just came back. I just had to take a path that was a little bit more rocky than you. You know, I had to learn lessons a different way.
Hey, but your path rocked. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you. You know what? You had the dopamine to laugh at that. You are welcome. No, I know, dude. I know. And here's the thing. I love that you just said like you wouldn't change anything. You would allow that person to just go through it. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I would say this and this and this.
Of course, yeah.
You know? But at the same time, it's like we've had these conversations where it's like you didn't feel like your spirit could have learned any other way than by going through crap.
Okay.
You know?
That's so true. You know? I mean, I'm with a wonderful woman now. Who helps me be a better man every single day. But I wouldn't have known her. I did know her worth before because we've been friends forever. But I wouldn't have known how much I'd value her if it wasn't for the past 2 years. Because I was in a situation where I wasn't getting what I truly, truly needed. You know? And now I am. And because I was literally deprived of that, I appreciate it way more. So now I'm like, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being my support. Thank you for this because I feel very lucky. You know?
It's awesome, man. No, it's so good. Well, honestly, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on and being so vulnerable because the truth is when I can hear people's incredible transformational stories, it empowers me like no other.
That's awesome.
Helps a ton.
Well, dude, you're the one that inspires me every single day.
Well,
you're the one that, you know, has the Indian accent. That's very inspirational.
It really is. It's an inspiration to all when you think about it.
Thank you.
It is what we do here is to spread joy through a means of... Anyway, I'm done.
That's beautiful. I loved it.
Well, here's the thing. I appreciate you saying that. Well, and I don't know.
I want to tell you this, though, like real quick. Sorry, right before we're done. That, like, you have been my rock my whole life, Sharon. Like, when I was a kid... You would play with me when my friends wouldn't play with me. You know, you'd even let me go to your friends' houses with you. You know, you were the one that always encouraged me. I came to you when I got off drugs. You know, like you have been the person there that has like really helped me, and I look up to you a lot, and I really like love and appreciate you. So thank you for that,
dude. Likewise, Sarath. Like I freaking love you, and you know, I'll tell you, it's interesting because there are just so many memories I have of you, like, just like you're my kid brother, you know, like you know, we would like, you know, of course we'd like goof around and like and do silly stuff, but yeah, we had a lot of fun. And I think especially as we got older, I always felt like we were in each other's lives for a great reason. Like we never really fought, I don't think. I mean, as kids, yes,
but we really
like,
didn't fight.
But
it was
that was
just more like play wrestling.
Yeah, play wrestling, right? But the thing was, especially as we got older, you know, because you know we're 5.5 years apart. Yeah, and I remember thinking like. When we were like, I don't know, like you were 13, I was 18 or something like that. Like during those years and stuff, like from then on, like we always like, even during your drug years, I felt like we always had a relationship. And I'm really, really, really grateful for that relationship.
Me too.
I think it's very powerful. And you know, the thing is, when I look at your life, I really think you can never give up on anybody. Because miracles happen every day.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think like, look, there's a lot of people out there that are like wanting to just say, okay, forget it. You know, you're not a part of our lives anymore. And like, you know, and maybe that might be the right call. I don't know. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, like in you, I always saw hope and I always saw light despite the darkness. Right. And I was like, I can see it. I can feel it. And now you're living proof of it. Right. You know, like it's amazing. And so I look at your life and I'm like, your life is a true miracle. It's the true miracle. And when I see your life, I see hope and miracles everywhere.
That makes me super happy.
And I see the possibilities of everything, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So, that's awesome.
Well, anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, absolutely. And just keep, you know, playing your music and keep being an awesome light to everybody. I will. And, you know, the thing I would say to you is like, even though the future is uncertain, that's the best part because now you can write it. Yeah. You know? Yeah, I love that. So, you know, you don't have to worry so much about like how unknown it is. It's like, oh, cool. This is just the blank canvas where I can draw and create my new life. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I absolutely want to be so colorful as you can see.
As I can see, absolutely. Things are a little bit more black and white with me, as you can see. As you can see,
I would say gray.
I don't know. Let's tomato. You know,
gray area.
We're splitting hairs. It's like literally. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and thanks Sarath for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know.